Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're taking a deep dive into a truly fascinating source. It's excerpts from a teaching given in Thailand way back in 1954.
Right.
And this text zeroes in on the Rattana, the gem verses, specifically looking at the Sangha Gem from the Rattana Suttra.
But it's got a very particular take on it.
Exactly. It gives this unique perspective on what it means to be a noble disciple, someone like a stream-enterer, and, well, how this specific tradition sees the path to actually getting there.
Yeah. So our mission really is to dig into this source, pull out the maybe surprising insights, and guide you through its pretty distinctive interpretation.
What's really striking, I think, is how specific it gets.
Totally. It's not just talking philosophy. It describes like a precise spiritual anatomy, a method, even the form of progress. It's very concrete.
Yeah, almost like a map. And it starts with something that might sound a bit contradictory at first glance.
Right. The source dives right into the nature of the Sangha Gem, the Sangha Rattana. Yeah, by describing someone who's already stepped onto the path, the stream-enterer, or Sotāpanna.
Sotāpanna.
And it cites these Pali verses. The core lines, basically, in the English translation provided, say something like, a stream-enterer still commits unwholesome acts.
Okay, hold on right there. A stream-enterer, someone who's supposed to have seen the path to nirvana, can still commit unwholesome acts. That feels weird.
It does sound counterintuitive, but that's the critical point this teaching is making. It's not saying they, keep doing major bad things with bad intentions.
Okay.
The nuance here, according to the source, is that while, minor slips or unwholesome actions, body, speech, mind, might still pop up.
Right.
The defining thing is they absolutely will not cover them up. They won't conceal them.
Okay. So the act itself isn't the absolute final word, but the response is, the inability to hide it.
Exactly. Because they have seen the path to nirvana, the Pali is ahabatad
Abatati.
Right. Because of that seeing, the sort of underlying habit of covering up, of trying to hide wrongdoing, it's just gone. They're fundamentally honest about their conduct, even if it's not, 100% perfect all the time.
And that inability to conceal that fundamental truthfulness.
Right.
That's what the source calls the refined gem in Sangha. The idampi sa Rattana pante.
Didampi sankhairatanam panetam.
Yeah.
It's about the purity of their intention, their integrity, even when faced with their own imperfections.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And this leads straight to another point the source makes really clear. You just cannot tell who's a stream-enterer or any noble one, like a once-returner, never-returner, or even an arahat, just by looking at them.
Right. Man, woman, monk, layperson, you just wouldn't know.
No idea. And the teaching gives us great story to illustrate it.
Oh, yeah.
There was this young novice monk, only 7 years old, but secretly he was an arahat fully enlightened.
Wow, 7. Okay.
Now, a senior monk, ordained for years, but still what the text calls a worldly person, a puthujana, sees this little novice and, just out of affection, kind of innocently pats him on the head.
Uh-oh. I have a feeling this doesn't end well for the senior monk.
Well, the source says the Buddha saw this happen and kind of pointed out that the monk had no idea what he'd just done. Compared it to, like, touching a poisonous snake's fangs. Dangerously unaware.
Yikes.
So the Buddha immediately calls all the monastics together.
And then, to make the point, right, he asks for water from some faraway place. The antidote reservoir.
Exactly. And the senior monks, being, ordinary folks, they couldn't just magically get it.
But the 7-year-old.
The little novice arahat stands up, grabs a big pot, ties it on his back, and just whoosh, flies through the sky like a swan, gets the water, and comes right back.
Wow. Imagine seeing that.
The senior monk was, as you'd expect, terrified. Realized he'd just casually patted the head of this being with incredible power, someone who looked just like any other kid monk.
Yeah, it really hammers home that these states are internal. Not something you can judge from the outside.
Definitely. And this is where the teaching digs even deeper into that idea of how a stream-enterer might still commit seemingly unwholesome acts. It brings up the story of a millionaire's daughter.
Right.
She was a stream-enterer, but she ended up marrying a hunter. Naineset, the text calls him.
Naineset, a stream-enterer marrying a hunter. Okay, that's unusual.
Right. And she follows him, becomes his wife, they have kids, she does all the normal wifely duties. But the source makes a point of mentioning that this included preparing his hunting gear.
You mean like getting his bow and arrows ready for him?
Exactly. Setting them out by the door for him every morning before he went out to hunt.
Okay, now that sounds problematic. The teaching must address that, surely.
Oh, it does. It poses the exact question you're probably thinking. Wasn't she complicit? Wasn't she involved in his sin of killing by helping him like that?
Yeah.
It even uses a legal analogy suggesting that, in regular law, she might get half the punishment for being an accessory.
So, from the outside, it looks like she's directly contributing to something unwholesome. How does the teaching resolve this?
It provides the answer based on what it calls the discipline division of the doctrine. And the absolute key, it says, is intention.
Ah, intention again.
Yes. It quotes this crucial line, Setanaham bhikkhave silam,
Kitanaham pikkhve silan.
which it translates as, Bhikkhu, the intention is the 5 precepts. Essentially, morality, sila, is defined by the intention behind the act.
Intention is morality. That really shifts the focus from just the action itself.
It does, especially here. The idea is the stream-enterer wife, because she'd already attained that state, had fundamentally cut off the intention to kill.
Okay.
So when she prepared his weapon, she was doing it purely as her duty to support her husband without sharing his intention to slaughter animals. Her inner morality, her sila, was defined by her lack of harmful intent.
So the source concludes that calling her an accomplice is, what, not correct?
Not correct exactly, according to this specific teaching. Her internal state trumped the external appearance of the action.
Okay, that's a really fine distinction. So, linking this back, if a stream-enterer does slip up, perform an unwholesome act, the implication is it lacks that core malicious intent.
That seems to be the idea. And, crucially, going back to the first point, they don't hide it.
Right. No cover-up.
Exactly. If a slip happens, they don't just stay quiet. The text says they declare this to his or her companion in holy life, kind of like how a monk confesses an offense. They correct their conduct, purify themselves.
So it's that mix, the underlying wholesome intention, even if actions falter, combined with total transparency and lack of shamelessness about mistakes. That's what marks their state in this view.
Precisely. That's the Sangha Gem quality being described here.
Okay, so if that's the nature of the stream-enterer who has seen the path, what is the path they've seen? The source asks, right? Here's the path to nirvana. What's it like?
It does. And according to this teaching, to understand the path, you need to understand the stream-enterer, but not their regular human body.
Not the physical body.
No. It's about something called the Dhammakaya.
Dhammakaya.
The Dhamma body, which the source says lies several layers inside the human body.
Several layers inside. So this isn't just a metaphor for a mental state. It's presented as like a tangible internal reality.
Yes, that's the really unique part of this teaching. It describes a specific anatomy of spiritual reality, and the method to get there is also detailed.
Oh.
The starting point is making the mind absolutely still at the center of something called the Dhamma sphere, which is within the human body.
Okay, stillness at the center, like a focus point. Then what?
Then you keep going deeper. You enter the center again and again, moving progressively inward through this whole sequence of spheres and bodies. It's laid out like a very precise step-by-step internal journey.
Okay, let's try and follow this map the source lays out. Starting from our regular human body, you cultivate stillness at its center. And the mind moves inward, passing through spheres related to what? Awareness, morality, concentration.
Yeah, Dhammanupassana Satipatthana sphere, Sila sphere, Samadhi sphere, Panya sphere, Vimutti sphere, Vimuttinyattasana sphere. Quite a sequence.
Right. And after passing through all those spheres within the human body, you arrive at the refined human body.
Exactly. And the text adds this interesting detail. This is the body that goes out when you dream.
Okay. And then you repeat the process. Stillness at the center of that body through the same spheres again.
You got it. And that takes you to the Dhammakaya.
Dhammakaya.
The divine body. And from its center, repeat the spheres. You reach the refined Dhammakaya.
Wow, this is really layering up. It's like Russian dolls almost. What's after the divine bodies?
Keep going. From the refined Dhammakaya, same process, same spheres, you reach the Rupa Brahmakaya.
Rupa Brahmakaya, the form Brahma body.
And then its refined version, the refined Rupa Brahmakaya.
We're still.
Yep. From the refined Rupa Brahmakaya, the sequence leads to the Arupa Brahmakaya.
Rupa Brahmakaya.
The formless Brahma body. And finally, the refined Arupa Brahmakaya.
Okay, wait. How many is that? Human, refined human, Dhammakaya, refined Dhammakaya, Rupa Brahma, refined Rupa Brahma, Arupa Brahma, refined Arupa Brahma. That's like 8 bodies or layers.
Leading up to the big one. From the center of that refined Arupa Brahmakaya, completing the sphere sequence one last time, you finally reach the Dhammakaya, the Dhamma body itself.
And the source describes this one.
Very specifically, looks like a Buddha image, has a lotus bud top knot. The text gives the pronunciation Gattu dok buatum.
Gattu dok buatum.
It's clear as a mirror and it's big. 5 wa lap and height.
5 wa. You mentioned that before. What's a wa again?
Wa. It's a Thai measure, about 2 meters, roughly 6.5 feet.
So 5 wa. That's like 32, 33 feet across and tall. That's huge.
Yeah, a substantial internal body.
Okay, so you reach this massive, clear, Buddha-like body, the Dhammakaya, after going through all those inner layers. And this specific body is called the Dhammakaya Gotabu.
Dhammakaya Gotapu, yes. And it's here, at this stage, that the source specifically defines the 3 gems.
How so?
At this Gotapu level, the Dhammakaya body itself, the 5-wa one, is the Buddha Rattana, the Buddha gem.
Okay.
The Dhamma sphere that enables it, also 5-wa across, is the Dhamma gem.
Right.
And then there's a refined Dhammakaya within that sphere, which the source says is even bigger, 10-wa, so around 65 feet. That is the Sankharatana, the Sangha Gem.
Wow.
The source even says explicitly, the real body is here, referring to that 10-wa refined body as the Sangha Gem.
So the gems themselves are identified with these specific internal bodies and spheres. That's a very physical interpretation. But wait, you said the source indicates this Dhammakaya Gotabu, even the 10-wa real body one.
Yeah.
It isn't the Stream-Enterer yet.
Correct. That's a crucial point in this teaching. Reaching the Dhammakaya Gotapu is a major attainment, but it's not yet the Stream-Enterer stage.
Wow.
The Stream-Enterer is attained in the next 2 bodies reached by continuing the exact same process inward.
Fascinating. So you start from the center of that 10-wa refined Dhammakaya Gotapu, the Sangha Gem, at that level.
Yeah.
And repeat the sphere sequence again.
Yes. And doing that leads you to what the text calls the coarse Dhammakaya Sutta.
Dhammakaya Sutta.
Which is the Stream-Enterer body. It looks the same as the Gotapu body Buddha image, lotus bud top knot, clear as mirror, but it's back to 5-wa, about 33 feet in size.
So this 5-wa body is the Stream-Enterer. But what happens just before you get there? You mentioned the seeing the path earlier.
Exactly. This is where that fits in. The source states that just before you attain and realize this coarse Dhammakaya Sutta body, you see the 4 noble truths. Suffering, its cause, the path to its cessation, and cessation itself. You see them clearly and apparently.
So the classic definition of stream entry, seeing the 4 noble truths, happens as this clear vision immediately before you actually realize or embody this specific 5-wa Stream-Enterer body. The vision of the path precedes embodying the state.
That's exactly how this teaching lays it out. That direct seeing leads directly to the attainment of this coarse Dhammakaya Sutta body, which marks the Stream-Enterer stage.
Okay. And then I bet the gems get redefined again at this level.
You guessed it.
Yeah.
At the Stream-Enterer level, the 5-wa Dhammakaya Sutta body itself is now the Buddha Rattana, the Buddha gem.
Yeah.
The 5-wa Dhamma sphere enabling it is the Dhammarata, the Dhamma gem.
And the Sangha Gem.
That's the refined Dhammakaya Sutta body within that sphere. It's 10-wa again, about 65 feet, and even clearer. That is the Sangharatana, the Sangha Gem at the Stream-Enterer level.
And the text connects this refined Sangha Gem body to that Pali phrase, Sanghina Dharito.
Sankhana Tharito, yes, meaning the Dhamma that the monk maintains. The idea is the Sangharatana, the refined body, maintains or upholds the Dhammaratana, the sphere Dhamma. It shows the relationship within the noble being.
Amazing detail.
It is, and the teaching just briefly mentions that the higher stages, once returner, never returner arahat, are reached by continuing this same inward process, realizing progressively larger and clearer bodies. The arahat body, it says, reaches 20-wa.
20-wa. That's like 130 feet. Incredible. And this whole sequence is presented as the complete practice in Buddhism in this specific tradition.
Yes, according to the source.
Wow. Okay, so stepping back, what does this incredibly detailed, almost anatomical description of an inner journey mean for you, the listener? The source isn't treating this like, just some interesting idea.
No, not at all. It calls it the main principle of Buddhism, a definitive text that people should remember.
And it stresses how rare this knowledge is, right?
Yeah.
Claiming it wasn't known without the Buddha, disappeared for nearly 2,000 years.
And then reappeared again in the Paknam temple.
Paknam. Yeah, what Paknam in Thailand is famously linked with Long Puso Kantasaro, the founder of this specific Dhammakaya meditation method. So the teaching clearly places itself in that lineage of rediscovery.
Absolutely. And it ends with this really strong encouragement to actually do the practice.
What did it say?
Things like, try this practice, don't be fatigued, work with Buddhism, experiencing the truth, persevering to attain the truth, then possess the truth within yourselves, and be determined, then you will not miss the opportunity.
So it's not just theory. It's presented as a concrete method you can use to achieve these states, these internal bodies.
Exactly, a practical path to realization.
So we've journeyed through a really unique interpretation of the Sangha Gem today. We looked at how this 1954 teaching describes the stream-enterer, capable of minor flaws but incapable of hiding them, and then laid out this incredibly precise, multi-layered inner path.
Yeah, a path defined by cultivating stillness at the center of the center and realizing these distinct internal bodies, each with its own specific form, size, and relationship to the three gems. It's quite something.
It really is. This source gives you a vision of spiritual progress that feels less like achieving abstract mental states and more like undertaking a tangible step-by-step journey through these layered internal realities, culminating in these, well, enlightened bodies. It definitely challenges maybe more common ideas about the path to nirvana. It invites you to consider, what does it fundamentally mean if spiritual attainment isn't just described as a change in your mind, but as the realization of these specific, measurable internal forms? It's certainly a different way to think about the nature of enlightenment itself.